Hey, good afternoon, and welcome to Artist Alchemy. This is an occasional series of interviews with artists and other creatives that we began early on in the pandemic, and we love to bring it back whenever we have the opportunity to meet somebody special. Today will be no exception. So, what's alchemy? Just a refresher. It's that medieval pseudoscience where it talks about transforming something kind of ordinary into something very special, just like what artists do. So. Today, we're very pleased to welcome into our virtual studio Anna Maria Mendieta.
Hey there, David. Thank you so much.
Oh,
Great
no,
to
we're
be here.
delighted. We're going to talk about why we're doing this today, other than just getting to know you and talking about your upcoming performance this weekend with the YubaSutter Symphony. Just reading from your biography, if I may, you're an award-winning American harpist. Anna Maria Mendieta, you're a soloist, orchestral musician, recording artist, and a teacher. She is the principal harpist with the Sacramento Philharmonic and Opera. You've performed with many symphony orchestras and chamber music groups in the U.S. and abroad, including the San Francisco Symphony, San Francisco Opera and Ballet, Russian National Orchestra, and Russian State Ballet. Wow. And in your spare time, you do what? Right. What spare time? Oh, have you had a lot of spare time since the end of the pandemic?
You know what? Even through the pandemic, I was working a lot. It was pretty amazing, pretty incredible.
You said you got on
So
your recording project that you had delayed and got that
that's
going.
right. That's right. Well, that became my COVID project. I had been working on an album. I do a lot of recording for other projects and so forth, and I've had other albums as well, solo albums. But there was one album that I had been working on for 5 years, and I could just never have the time to finish it. And then when COVID happened and the lockdown happened, I kept thinking, well, what am I going to do with my time? And at that time, I was performing for San Francisco Symphony's outreach programs. And so they were
Mm.
sending us out every day to the schools to perform. And they told us, well, we're just going to put everything on hold for a week until we figure out what to do. And I kept thinking, oh my gosh, what am I going to do with my time for a week? And so I
Yeah.
thought, so something pushed me back into the recording studio. I knew that, okay, this is my chance to finish
Good.
those last few tracks for this project. And so I did. We went into the recording studio. I finished those last few tracks. And right after we were done, and it was like the day after that they announced the shutdown, the lockdown.
Oh,
And so at that point, I worked with the engineer remotely, and we finished. We spent months working on the album, and then I got a call from a composer in Spain who had heard some of the tracks, and she said, "I love what you're doing. I want to submit it for Latin Grammys." But
oh,
and it was like, oh, yes, that's exciting. But you
sure.
have to finish it in 2 weeks. And it's like,
Oh,
no. So we ramped it up and just, oh my goodness, it was
and
quite
you got it
something.
done? You got it done in
We,
time?
we we got it done on time. She submitted it, but this is what happened. There were record companies who were interested in it, but no one could release it on time because everyone was in the same boat. They
Yeah.
had they were under lockdown and didn't have the manpower to do it. So we actually had to withdraw, but do it honorably.
Yeah.
I was lucky to meet the president of the Latin Grammys, and he said,
Yeah.
"Not to worry, we'll withdraw, and you can enter the following year." But in the
Oh,
meantime, it was for the best because one of the composers from my album, Jorge Calendrelli, whose music will be performing this coming weekend, he said, "Oh," and he's won many Grammys, and he said, I know what to do. Let me help you. You have to have a tangible product in hand,
mm,
not just release it digitally. So
yes.
that put us on another adventure of getting
Oh
it
my
done in
God.
time, uh, physically for the American Grammys. And so we were
CD or vinyl or what?
it was a CD. It was a
CD.
CD album.
Okay.
And so, you know what? We can probably show a picture of it later
Oh,
too.
wonderful.
But
Wonderful.
yes, and I'll bring some CDs for the concert.
No, please. Yeah. What a story. Oh,
So we got it submitted on the last day of American Grammys. My brother put the case of CDs on the receptionist desk. 5 minutes before 6, the cutoff time. Oh my gosh. And
Oh,
you know what? It all worked out because that actually launched the album into um, wonderful publicity.
mm,
It won 11 international awards, including 4 Global Music Awards. We made it to the finals for Grammys, which is incredible.
sure.
And then
And this is
it's
Tango de Cielo?
Tango del Cielo,
Mm,
exactly.
mhm.
So we'll be performing a lot of that music this weekend with this Sutter Orchestra, Symphony Orchestra. So
Wonderful.
I'm really excited about that. We're going
Oh,
to have a fun concert.
wow. Well, so turning, I don't know, lemons into lemonade, the pandemic,
That's
inspired
right.
us all to do things differently and do some things that we never thought we would do, right?
Exactly. It stretched us to the limit for sure.
Well, just sharing that story reminded me, your whole career has been so international. Where'd you grow up?
In San Francisco, born
Did
and
you?
raised,
Okay,
and
and that's all
second
right.
generation. My parents were born in San Francisco as well, but
Oh,
my grandfathers came from Spain, northern
oh,
and southern Spain.
wow.
Mendieta is a Basque name, meaning of
Ah,
the mountains in the Basque language,
I
and
love it.
my grandmothers came from Mexico and Guatemala, and then we had lots of family that moved to South America and spread
Oh,
out there. So we
and
got it all covered.
a citizen of the world. No, wonderful. So when did you become serious about music as a career?
Well, thank you. I started playing the harp when I was 7. I knew I wanted to play ever since I was 5 years old.
Really?
I was raised actually all of the family are into music, the arts, dance. My parents were musicians. They met through their music, and so we were raised listening to classical music. And as a 5-year-old, they had told me the story of Romeo and Juliet and played a
Mm.
recording of Tchaikovsky's Romeo and Juliet.
Oh,
And there's
of
this
course.
beautiful, well, it's just this beautiful swell with the orchestra. It gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And then all of a sudden, there's this sacred hush and a beautiful harp solo. And as a 5-year-old, I was mesmerized. And so
Oh,
I'd put my ear to the speaker and have them play the recording over and over and over again so I could hear that beautiful harp. And that's when I knew that's what I wanted to do. And I would daydream playing the harp. I would daydream playing with orchestras. And I begged them for 2 years. 2 years, they said. I pestered them. And then I got to take lessons when I was 7. And I
oh,
just knew this is what I wanted to do. And I'm so grateful. I'm doing what I love, love, love most of all.
wonderful.
So when
So are there half size and quarter size harps like there are
there
for other
are,
instruments? I mean, the
there
logistics of
are.
moving that around is just overwhelming.
I know, really. The full-size concert harp's 6 feet tall, 6 feet 4 inches tall, but they come in all sizes, and I
Okay.
started on a very small harp, and
Oh,
that's what's wonderful. They do come in all sizes, fewer strings, and simplified, so anybody could
sweet.
learn the harp.
Oh, where'd you train?
I started at the Conservatory of Music in
Okay.
San Francisco, and just a wonderful environment to be a part of,
Excellent.
definitely.
You've mentioned your family. Any other main influences in your life as a musician early on or currently?
Well, thank you. As a musician, um, you know, we were raised listening to classical music, but we were also raised going to the movies. And so I
Mm,
was surrounded with this beautiful symphonic music. And for me as a musician, even growing up, I would tune out what I was seeing and just pay attention to what I was listening to. And I'd have to ask my family, what just happened? What just happened on the screen? Because I was just so glued to the music.
Earlier,
But
so dialed in. Yeah, that's wonderful.
dialed into the music. But later on, and I do play with lots of orchestras, and I enjoy that very, very much. But it was around the late 1990s that I was introduced to Astor Piazzolla and
Mm.
his music. Piazzolla is known to be one of the great tango composers of Argentina, and he has a fascinating story. He's Argentina for the longest time was very solid in their traditions of the way tango music should be played. And
He kind of blew
Piazzolla,
it apart, didn't he?
he did. He
Yeah.
stretched the
Yeah.
envelope. He was a bandoneon player who it plays this
Say that
beautiful
again. I see the word and I've never heard it pronounced.
bandoneon. And
Bandoneon.
so
Okay.
it's an octagonal shaped instrument with bellows. So they open and close, kind of like an accordion, but they wouldn't want to become
All right.
compared to an
Sure.
accordion. And so he played the bandoneon in the tango orchestras, and then he was also composing on the side, and so he won a couple of competitions that allowed him to study with these incredible great classical composers like Kinastera and
Mm.
and Nadia Boulanger in France. So
Yes.
when he went to France to study with Nadia Boulanger, who was big name in the
Sure.
contemporary classical world, he kept it a secret that he played the bandoneon. He kept it a secret for a long time. And then
Oh,
finally, when I guess when the walls came down and they were on a break, he pulled out his instrument and he started to play for her. And once he played, she was so blown away, and she said, "Ask her, that is your voice. From now on, you should incorporate the tangos in everything that you do." And
wow.
so he did, but he wasn't welcomed back to his own country. In fact, believe it or not, there was even a contract out on his life, and so
God.
it was funny. Well, not then, but
Yeah. Right.
at the time, his music was accepted everywhere else around the world. And when Argentina saw that, then they welcomed him back, and he was so well treated and beloved that he was basically he was paid to perform and compose new music every weekend to perform in the plaza. So he became such a successful composer.
Right.
So when I got to hear his
Hmm.
music, it was with an orchestra playing his music, and his dream was for tango music to be played on the concert stage. And so that's when I got to hear his music with an orchestra, with a ballet company dancing, and I was just
Oh,
so taken by it. And
oh,
so I looked everywhere for music for harp, and I couldn't find it anywhere. And when I would ask,
oh.
people would laugh at me. They would actually laugh at me, and they would say, "Oh, you can't play tango music on the harp. It just can't be done. It's
Oh.
too chromatic. It's too this, too that."
Yeah.
And so I thought, "Oh goodness, well then I'm going to have to just make my own arrangements." And
Oh,
so I
no.
grabbed everything I could: flute music, bandoneon music, guitar music, and I started creating my own arrangements. And word got out, and I was asked to play for the National Harp Conference to premiere some of my arrangements. And then
Wow.
I was introduced to Pablo Ziegler, who was Piazzolla's pianist for 10
Okay.
years. And Pablo Ziegler, basically after Piazzolla died, Pablo Ziegler took the torch and did the same thing, continued expanding stylistically the tango music and
Yeah.
changing rhythms and meters, and it was quite amazing what he would do. But he would always say it had to be danceable. It had to still be
Oh,
dance danceable. So
okay.
I was introduced to him, and he had just won the Grammy Award for the best tango album, and so he was like the king of the mountain, the
Oh,
top of
yeah.
the hill of tango. And when I was introduced to him and I explained what I was doing with the harp, he was fascinated because he had done everything, been there, done that for everything, but had not written for the harp in this way.
Oh,
So he took me under his wing and we explored how to create tango music for the harp. We explored the different sound effects and how
hmm.
to and it took me time. Actually, it took me
What an
a long time
experience,
to
though. Yeah.
figure this out, how to do it. And so once we did it, and we completed the first piece, uh, he said to me, because I should back up a bit. When he went on with his career, he was told by the public that he could not succeed without a bandoneon player. He was planning to perform as a pianist, as a soloist, and he had piano, guitar, and bass. And he was told it could not be done, but he proved them wrong.
Oh,
And so when he finished the first arrangement, and we're going to be playing this piece on Sunday, it was Introducción al Ángel, Introduction of an Angel. When he finished it, he said to me, "Okay, now you go and do what no one else has done before."
oh, wow.
And that was our connection. And it was such an honor to work with him. And we're going to be playing one of his pieces for
I'm getting
Sunday's
chills. I
concerts.
can't wait.
Oh,
Oh my gosh.
it's incredible. It's incredible.
Oh,
And I get chills even when playing it. It's
no.
really so
Oh,
beautiful.
what a great story. You're such a rebel. I love it. Well, pioneer, I mean, you think everything, it's all been done, right? It's all been done before, but clearly that's not true. Never true.
No, it's not true. And I even had to change my whole technique of playing the harp
Oh,
to
really?
play this kind of music. Oh yeah.
Oh,
Oh
I
yeah.
love it. Can't wait. Let's talk about the concert. So
Yeah.
you're coming to town. The two performances are this coming Saturday and Sunday. And Saturday you're going to be at St. Andrew Presbyterian Church on Franklin. And then on Sunday you'll be at the Yuba College Theater. So 7 o'clock at St. Andrew on November 5th, and then 2 o'clock November 6th at Yuba College. So
That's right.
concert for Yuba Sutter Symphonies performances are always free. Of course, donations are always welcome and accepted. And I should point out that we had a little bit to do with this and being able to put this incredible program together because I work for the YubaSutterArts Council. We're the local affiliate of the California Arts Council. And we were able to get a grant from the National Endowment for the Arts. And it was a re-granting grant. So basically, I got to give money away to local arts organizations like our dear friends at the Yuba Sutter Symphony. So that helped put this program together. So we're just so proud and to see what they've done with it, and then now to meet you and look forward to hearing you this weekend.
Wow.
And then tell us about the
Thank
school. You
you.
mentioned school programs, and I know you're doing a
Right.
couple here on Thursday and Friday. Tell us about
That's
that.
right. That's right. And I'm going to be joined with the concertmaster of the orchestra too. So we'll be playing harp and violin
Hmm.
together for some of the pieces. We'll be playing music from the programs. What's fun about the instruments when they're used in tango music is that the instruments are not just melodic instruments. They become percussive instruments as well. And that's what's so much fun about pianoless music. So we'll be able to demonstrate this for the children. We'll be able to show our instruments. And a lot of times, I get this a lot that people haven't seen the harp in person up close like this. Usually they
Pretty
see a
exotic.
harp far away in the orchestra and let alone up close to really see the colored strings, to see that there are pedals on the harp. And so I demonstrate the instrument to show off what the harp can do. We talk about the music that we're going to be playing, and we'll get to showcase some of the music that we'll be doing for the concerts, which will be fun.
Oh, it's so wonderful that this program allowed you and that you had the time to come in and work with students that way. Arts and education is a real cornerstone of what we try to do, and this is just so totally unique. So yeah, thank you for doing that as well. I hope
My pleasure.
see you. I'll get with Corey, and maybe I'd just love to come in and sit on the sidelines and watch
Hey,
one of those
that would be great.
presentations for my
That
own
would,
learning.
yeah.
In preparing for this conversation, Anna Maria, I know a little bit about a lot of different things, but didn't know much about the harp. But I didn't realize that, of course, you think of the biblical scenes and what have you, and King David's harp, right? The harp of David, I guess, and certainly they existed before that. But then I was trying to find famous classical harpists. And I never thought of it in other contexts, but of course there are, folk and jazz harpists. The couple of names I recognized were Lorena McKennett. Do you know her?
Oh yes,
Canadian,
that's right. She's wonderful.
interesting, eclectic stuff.
Beautiful.
I forgot I'd
Yeah.
seen her live. Andreas Vollenweider,
Right.
him,
Right.
and then Alice
Yes.
Coltrane's name came up as a jazz
That's right.
harp practitioner, which I've got to go back and listen to a bunch of music now. It's like I'm like, what happened? I missed something here. But what about in the classical realm? Certainly the harp is no stranger as a symphonic instrument, but there've got to be are there names that I've just missed, or obviously there are.
Well, there are, and there's so many wonderful, wonderful harpists of many different styles. And you've named some great ones too. Andreas Vollenweider had a special electronic harp built
Was
for
it?
him.
Oh, that's okay.
And so if you watch him play, you'll see that there are dials on his sounding board. That's the flat part of the harp. And he'll be maneuvering dials, and then on his left hand, he plays with a pick and a rubber tip on one of his fingers too, so he's getting different sound effects, which is
Interesting.
fascinating. Fascinating. In the classical realm, in the past there have been wonderful harpists like Carlos Salcedo, Nicanor Zabaleta. Zabaleta had a harp that was built for him that had an eighth pedal that was a dampening pedal. And actually, you know what? This harp that I have behind me.
Yes.
You can kind of see there's a little green felt.
Yes.
There's I have actually, this is one of the kind harp in this country because it has that eighth pedal that Nicanor Zabaleta had helped invent. And
seven pedals is traditional.
7 pedals is traditional for the 7 notes in the scale, and that's how I change keys. So I just basically, whatever key I'm playing in, I set those pedals in a certain pattern, then I'm set in that key, and then once I play, if I have to change keys or sharps and flats anywhere, I have to move the pedals while I play. And that's what made it so tricky to play tango music, because it's so chromatic. That means moving from flat, natural to sharp, and violinists, string players can do it so easily. But for me, it means a specific pedal change for each one.
Wow.
So one of the pieces on the album actually has 200 pedal changes.
Oh
and
my
so
gosh.
yeah, but it's a beautiful
Sounds like a
piece.
workout. Oh my God.
It's fun. It's fun. And then let's see, Carlos Salcedo was a harpist of the early of the 20th century, so through the mid 1900s. He also was very determined to change the character of the harp. So for the longest time, the harp had a kind of a dainty image, right? And so he was a composer and conductor and a pianist, and saw the harp as an instrument that had a lot of potential, hadn't yet been recognized. So he took it upon himself to explore the instrument, explore the different sound effects, and he actually created his own technique to play. And so I'll be playing one of his pieces definitely for the outreach programs to demonstrate what the harp can do. But I bring attention to him and to what he's done because I borrow a lot of those techniques and sound effects and incorporate them in the tango music as well.
Well, you've kind of answered part of my next question, which is, I just, for no reason other than lack of knowledge, feel like the harp is more of a woman's instrument than a man's instrument, but it doesn't sound like that's necessarily the case.
Oh, don't forget Harpo Marx. He did a lot to bring the harp to the general public.
Okay, that's a good one. Yeah. All right.
Yeah. And he's got a fun story too. He taught himself to play the harp, but they were very poor, and so he could not afford lessons. But he happened to be given a harp. So he taught himself to play with the harp on the wrong shoulder, on the left shoulder, instead of the right shoulder. So when he played for the movies, a studio harpist had a fit and complained to the management, and then Harpo actually had to retrain himself as an adult to totally switch to the opposite, to the right shoulder instead, totally switching his hands completely as well, because he had everything opposite. But can you imagine that he did that as an adult and was able to get back to concert level playing? And he was a fine
he was really that.
artist.
Okay,
he really was. He really
competent,
was.
super competent.
Isn't that something?
Player. Yeah. Wow. I had no idea. I thought it was just a novelty act, but he was legit.
No, he was. He was
my gosh,
the real thing.
Fascinating.
I got to play on his harp in Florida, which was pretty cool.
So how much does your harp weigh?
How much does a harp weigh? It weighs about 100 pounds.
Is that all?
It's all hollow. It's all hollow. So it's definitely, but it's awkward weight. So, you have to maneuver it very carefully. And I do have a harp dolly, so I move it with wheels.
The wheels aren't built in. It's a separate dolly.
No, there's a separate dolly, and I fit it into my station wagon on its side, and then I can go anywhere. Okay. So that's how it works.
What about air travel? You have some big how do you do that?
We do have harp trunks that we can ship the harps to places, but you wouldn't want to really do that on a regular basis. And so what we do when we have to fly to perform, in fact, there's a beautiful, wonderful harp camaraderie throughout the world. And so what I do when I'm touring is I reach out to the symphony harpist in
Okay.
that area, and then I know that I can rely on. Usually, harpists have more than one harp, and so I will use one of their harps. They know
Oh,
that they
sure.
can trust me with their harp, and I do the same for them when they come to my
Okay.
area. So it's a
Yes,
wonderful thing.
that makes sense. We
Has
had
to.
little different, but we had a jazz concert a couple of months ago, and the bass player was coming up from LA. Couldn't travel his bass for some reason. I reached out to a
Mm.
local bass player friend, and so he got to use the local musician's bass. Same
Oh,
idea
good. Same thing. Yes.
among harpists. Yeah,
Uh,
that makes a lot of sense, and they're
it,
universal enough where it's not a major struggle
well,
to adapt, or
there
they're going to
are
feel
there are
different.
changes. Everything
Yeah,
feels different,
yeah.
absolutely. And sometimes the strings might be a little bit wider and a little bit
Oh,
closer in places. So I have to get there early to adapt to the harp, get used to it. And but you know what? It's much better than trust. You can't
yeah,
take a harp and then trust it for to the handlers to
yeah.
yeah. And then the harps themselves, just like any instrument, they're very sensitive to temperature change,
Sure.
humidity. If I were to take this harp to Florida, it would not be good.
Oh.
Strings would break, it would just not be good. It's better to use a harp
And
there.
the basic frame is wood?
The basic frame is wood,
Oh, okay, wood. Yeah.
and so it's all wood, and if you can imagine, the strings actually create such a tension. There's like the equivalent of a
Oh,
2,000-pound pull on the wooden frame of the harp.
oh my god.
So harps don't last a lifetime. They last maybe about 30 years
Oh,
because
interesting.
after some time with the tension, the wood would warp, the sounding board would pull up, and
Hmm,
it throws the precision off up above, which is what happens when I move a pedal. It's turning the little discs above the strings and shortening the string ever so much, and it has to be lined up exactly.
hmm.
And so not only are we tuning our harps every time we move them to compensate for the temperature change and so forth, but we have to have a harp technician to regulate the harp about once a year to compensate for the tension, the extreme tension on the
See,
wooden frame of
harp
the harp.
technician, is that
I
like
know,
a piano tuner or
like a harp doctor.
yeah,
Yep,
wow,
that's
no
right,
kidding.
and they do all the fine tuning, adjusting the discs back and forth, right and left, and it takes hours, but
Not a
they're experts.
specialty art form, gosh.
That's right.
Oh, so
Yeah,
we talked about you're doing a little bit of teaching while you're here. Do you teach as well on a regular
I
basis,
I
or
do, I do, I do. I have harp studio and I
no?
teach.
Okay.
I do a lot of online lessons as well, so that works out really well.
That's right, the whole online thing is really yeah, it's been a necessity the last
It's
couple
been
of
a
years.
necessity, but fortunately, I had a friend who was just developing an online teaching platform before
Mm,
the pandemic hit, and it was just being launched at that time. And I love it. In fact, I'll just put a plug in it. It's called String Masters. It's beautiful, and so it's so much better, fine tuned.
oh,
I can even fine tune it to the frequencies of the harp. So that's what I love
oh,
about it.
so good to know there's technology advancement even in that realm. Oh, so we've
Yeah.
talked a little bit about composers that you like, that you've worked with. Who are some of your other favorite composers?
Oh, I love the Spanish music.
Yeah.
I love the Spanish composers. And we'll be playing some Spanish music for the concert this coming Sunday, Saturday and Sunday.
Is
We'll
this
be
music
playing.
originally written for harp, or are they transcriptions, or
No, they're transcriptions.
yeah,
Actually, we'll
okay,
be doing the Asturias by Isaac Albeniz,
of course, yeah.
um, and that was originally written for piano to imitate the sound of the guitar.
Oh,
But
really?
guess
Was that
what?
how it
It's
went?
now
Okay.
become and now it's become an famous
Oh,
guitar solo piece, but
of
it
course.
worked so perfectly for the harp. So I
Oh,
created an arrangement for the harp and my touring ensemble. And then when we were starting to play the whole program with orchestras, I had reached out to a wonderful arranger. His name is Vincent Russo, who took what I had created with the ensemble, a small ensemble, and he orchestrated it for orchestra. It's really beautiful. It's incredible. So we'll be doing that and other Spanish music,
yep.
famous Malagueña as well. And I composed something
Oh,
that was to accompany Malagueña, and I want to share that we'll be having a wonderful
Oh, yes.
flamenco dancing with the
Yay.
concert. And so my sister, who is a fantastic flamenco dancer, will be joining us for the concert. She'll be dancing to the Spanish pieces,
Ah,
and that's
wow.
that's just icing on the cake for this.
Suzanne Mendieta, right?
Suzanne Mendieta, that's
Wow,
right.
beautiful. That's so exciting. I know so much of the music you just talked about. I've just had a number of friends who are classical guitar players, and I love that story about the Albéniz piece having been written for piano to simulate guitar, but then transcribed back for guitar and now for harp. So, my gosh, this is going to be just
There we go.
spectacular. Oh, wonderful. Yeah, you've talked a lot about the music you're going to be performing along with the Carmen Suite, right? By
That's
Bizet.
right. By
That's on the
Bizet.
program.
It's on the program as well. And even though he's a French composer, he
Hey.
captures the Spanish style so well, just
Oh,
magnificently. It's really become an audience favorite. So
oh,
I'm excited to do that.
wonderful. And then the Capriccio Español by Rimsky-Korsakov, of course.
Exactly. Capriccio
Yeah.
Español by Rimsky-Korsakov, showcasing the different instruments in different ways throughout that piece. So that's what's fun too, is each instrument will be able to be showcased.
Good. And then we'll be hearing so much of your new album, and you'll have the album for sale, right?
Yes, definitely.
Wonderful, wonderful. I got a kick out of reading your bio, and you've played for some pretty famous people. What's that like, playing for the Pope or the King and Queen of Spain, President Clinton,
Oh, thank
President
you.
Gorbachev, Secretaries of State Colin Powell and George Shultz? Oh my gosh. Is that nervous?
Yeah.
More nerve-wracking than usual? Or
Well, I do have to admit, I was nervous when I was playing for the King and Queen of Spain, and I had to practice there was a certain protocol of how you address royalty, and that was
Oh yeah,
exciting to have to go through all of that.
sure.
And when I played for the Pope, you know what? I have to share that was probably one of the most incredible experiences of my life. It
Please.
really was. So, and I even have the picture on my Facebook page still because it was one of those moments. What had happened was I was asked to play the Pope knew about this concert. It was all pre-planned, and the conductor of an orchestra in Spain had asked for me to come and join them for this concert. And the composer for this concert cleverly found out what the lullaby was that the Pope's mother sang to him when he
Oh,
was a baby. So he wrote this beautiful arrangement of the lullaby, and which opened with a lovely, beautiful harp solo. And so we played this as the very first piece. So when the Pope came in and we had the concert in the private audience hall, it's huge. And so we were on stage and the Pope walked in, he sat down in his chair, just like 10 feet away from me
oh,
and sat down, and I started playing the solo, the opening, and he started to cry. And at that point, we all started to cry. And even just thinking about it makes me want to cry. But it was
wow.
incredible. It was such an amazing moment. And I could feel his presence. I could feel his
Yeah.
eyes and emotions with
How beautiful.
this music.
Wow. What an experience. What an experience. So we got to get you into the White House.
There we go.
You and Pablo Casals and whoever else, right?
Oh.
Oh, golly, that's fabulous. So what else have what have we left out? Anything else you want to share or talk about in preparation, or just in general, or about the concert this weekend? Or?
Well, thank you. I think what would be fun to share is just the evolution of the harp.
Please.
Everybody asks me, where did the harp come from? Who
Yeah.
invented the harp? Nobody knows for sure. But we do know it's such a universal instrument. It goes way back. Every country wants to claim that they've invented the harp.
Oh, interesting.
But what we do know, the harps, King David played the harp in the Bible.
Uh-huh.
We know that there were paintings of harps in the pyramids of Egypt, right?
Oh, wow.
We also know in the very first civilization in Mesopotamia, the very first civilization.
The cradle, right.
That's right. There were ruins of harps in the ruins of Mesopotamia. So we know it goes as far back as the earliest civilization. But what was just discovered, and fairly recently, like the last 50 years, archaeologists discovered in the ancient caves of France
Yes.
paintings that had the beginnings of what looked to be like a harp. And so
Oh,
this confirmed the theory that archaeologists had, that it was the sound of the hunter's bow. So when the hunter took that bow
oh,
and pulled that string and shot that arrow, that twang gave man the idea of adding more strings and creating
wow.
an instrument. And so looking back at those paintings actually shows a hunter with his hunter's bow, but flipped in reverse. And the bow was not used for, I mean, the arrow was not used for hunting. It was used for hitting that string.
Oh
And
my God.
so that confirmed exactly what we were all wondering, the
Wow.
beginnings of the harp, and then to see how
Yeah.
it just transitioned and grew over time, developed, and it's really fantastic how even harpists are stretching the limits of what the harp
Huh.
can do.
So the bow begat the harp. I love that
That's right.
process. Oh my gosh. All those incredible cave paintings in Lascaux and all over there. Yeah.
That's
Just
right. That's right.
that's so fascinating. Thank you for sharing. Yeah. Oh, the history, right? And
It's
here you
all
are,
part of it.
modern day practitioner and taking it to a whole new level. Jay, well, it's going to be an exciting couple of concerts this weekend again,
It
ladies
will
and
be.
gentlemen. Yeah, please come out, experience um, something you've probably never experienced before. Of course, the YubaSutter Symphony has been performing here for decades. Tremendous ensemble, and we've had a variety of wonderful guest artists over the years. But um, to have you, Anna Maria Mendieta, your sister Suzanne, coming in to accompany some of the tunes with some flamenco dancing is just going to be a remarkable experience. So that's Saturday at St. Andrew Presbyterian Church, 7 o'clock, and then Sunday afternoon, the 6th at Yuba College in their wonderful theater there. Plenty of free parking. Both locations, and again, no charge. Admission is free. If you can make a donation, it's always appreciated. So super.
I'm so honored to be a part of the concert. So
Anna Maria, we just so look forward to meeting you this week.
thank you.
All right, thanks for being with us, and thank you to our technical support team, producer Abby Cecina, technical director Shante Arroyo. Until next time, that's it for Artist Alchemy. We'll be coming back and visiting with you periodically, and keep up with all the other great Yuba Sutter Arts programs by going to YubaSutterArts.org. We've got live events at both the Sutter Theater Center for the Arts in Yuba City, and of course at the Burroughs Center for the Arts in Marysville. So until next time, take care, and don't forget, support live music in our community. Bye-bye.